how do I do this? How do I get started? How do I declutter? How do I let go of certain things? What do I need to let go of? And all of that. So that's what I'm gonna get into now. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing my best tips on decluttering, getting organized, and transitioning into a more minimalistic and simple lifestyle. I do have a previous video up on my channel about minimalism and my journey with it, so I'll leave that in the description box below if you're interested. I've been a minimalist since around July of 2016. I was going through a really tough place in my life at that time. I was very stressed. I felt very chaotic and anxious all of the time, and I had a really good friend of mine suggest a book to me. This book is called Minimalism, Live a Meaningful Life, and it's by the Minimalists. If you haven't heard of them, I truly recommend this book. It's a very small book. It's by Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus. I hope I pronounced that right. It's a very quick read, but I loved it. It absolutely opened my eyes. I had never heard of minimalism before reading this book, and any preconceived notions I had about it, if I were to hear it, were kind of that clean-cut white rooms where you don't own anything other than 5 items. And I'm not by any means bashing on anyone if they do follow that form of kind of more extreme minimalism, but I knew that wasn't for me at that point in my life. Who knows, maybe I'll transition to more of that in the future. I did start that summer. I completely decluttered my entire space, and I was still living where I currently am now, so I do still live at home. So I do just have my bedroom. I know it's a small space, but I packed a lot into it. My closet was full to the point where you couldn't even get a hanger in without having to like put your entire weight behind the hangers and push them apart and then stick the hanger up in there. I had bins and bins and bins of t-shirts and sweatshirts. I just, at that point in my life, was very stressed, and I was suggested this as a way to kind of clear your space, to clear your mind. And that's kind of what I've lived my life by since then. I'll leave a link down below on my journey with minimalism if you're interested. But for today's video, I just want to share my tips on how I got started, because I know it can seem really overwhelming. I thought I would share my best tips on what helped me when I was first getting started as someone who really lived in excess and really had a lot of stuff. The first thing I want to say when you're first getting started with this is to realize that it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight, at least it didn't for me. Try not to be too hard on yourself. This is a process. It shouldn't be this stressful thing where you're beating yourself up because you're not getting there fast enough or you're not where you should be as a minimalist. I really don't believe that there's a right way or a wrong way to be a minimalist. I think it's just kind of what you make it and what that means for you and how you define it. Find a way that's going to cause you the least amount of stress. So my next tip is to figure out why you want to do this and then find inspiration, whether that's on Pinterest, whether it's on We Heart It, anything you can to just get yourself inspired and really feeling good about starting this journey. My next tip is to break it down. So create a plan of how you're going to tackle this. Break it down on what you want to declutter and chunk it down. So I would start by, especially if you're doing a house or apartment, say, start by distinguishing which rooms you want to start with, then break it down even further. For me, I knew I wanted to start with my bedroom first, broke it down to my closet, my dresser, my desk, my underbed bins. I had some storage bins underneath there at one time. I broke it down by sections so that way I didn't feel so overwhelmed, and I just did one section at a time. I started with my closet first because that was the thing that was causing me the most stress and anxiety. So that's my other tip, is to start with the room and section that caused you the most stress. My next tip is to make it fun. It shouldn't cause you stress. It shouldn't be a chore. You want to make it as fun as possible. So for me, I like putting a record on my record player. I blast it up. I listen to some good music. And I will start decluttering. If you are feeling a little bit unmotivated, you can try a challenge. Project 333 is great. The Minimalists also have some great resources on their blog. I'll leave those links in the description box below. So the next thing, the biggest part of this whole thing, right, is how do I do this? How do I get started? How do I declutter? How do I let go of certain things? What do I need to let go of? And all of that. So that's what I'm going to get into now. I break this down into a 4-step process. That's what worked best for me. I've kind of pulled from different things. I've pulled from the Magic Art of Tidying Up, Project 333. I've pulled from the Minimalist books, and I kind of found that this system worked the best for me and my personal belongings. So definitely research other YouTubers, read some books, read some blogs, find out what you think is going to work best for you. But these are my 4 tips that I use when I'm decluttering. Step 1, I pull everything out of that section. So For example, when I did my closet, I pulled every single item out of my closet. It was completely bare, completely empty. I pulled everything off the hangers, pulled everything out of drawers, out of bins, everything. Pulled everything out of my closet and just threw it on my bed. I wish I had before photos of what everything looked like because it was crazy. It was ridiculous. Then what I did once I pulled everything out of my closet is I went one item at a time. Well, I would hold up an item and the first thing I asked myself was, did this bring a smile to my face? Did it bring me joy? Did it make me smile? Did it make me remember something that made me smile? And I also kind of asked myself the opposite. Did this remind me of a bad day? Did this remind me of something negative? Do I have a negative feeling towards this? And I really looked at that. And you can do that with anything. You can do that with books, photos, everything. This applies to everything. The next thing I asked myself was, have I used this item or worn this item in the last 30 days? And if I hadn't, then it immediately went into the no pile. If I had, then I put it in a maybe pile, and then I went back to that maybe pile later. The fourth step, I asked myself, if I do need this item again, is it replaceable? And this is a big one. This will come into effect, especially with sentimental items. So if it's something that you can replace again, if you need it, then I immediately put it in my no pile, because that doesn't mean that I necessarily need it in my life right now. So that worked really well for me. If I felt like it wasn't replaceable, I made a separate pile for my sentimental items, the things that were really, really hard for me to let go of. Like I was just like, I haven't used this in a while, but I don't want to get rid of it. Like, what do I do? I put that in that sentimental pile. By this point, I do have 3 piles. So I create 3 piles as I'm going through with my decluttering. I have a keep pile, I have a donate/sell pile, and I have a throwaway pile. Then from there, I tossed the things that were in the toss pile, I donated and sold the things that were in that donate pile, and then the keep pile, I do go through one more time. So now I go through those items again. And my goal when I was first decluttering, the very first time I ever did this, was to try and cut it by half. So for all the items I kept, I would keep half of those things. And that worked really well for me, rather than saying I'm gonna downsize to only, you know, a couple shirts and 1 pair of pants. And, you know, I didn't want to get extreme with it because I wanted it to be something that was sustainable for me. And that, in my mind, was very doable. I felt like half those items would be plenty. So that's my other tip, is to look at what you have in your keep pile and see if you can cut it down even more. And from there, I looked at my sentimental items. I can do a whole video on this if you're interested. Leave a comment and I'll definitely film it for you guys. Sentimental items are the hardest things, I think, especially for me when I was starting with minimalism. I'm a very sentimental person, but I don't have the greatest memory. So I kept a lot of things, but like starting from when I was really young, of sentimental items. And the sentimental items were a process for me. I did put them in a box, and over this last year started going through them. What I did with my sentimental items was I scanned all my photos. I did get rid of old letters from ex-boyfriends, got rid of everything that kind of was a negative memory for me. I had a habit of keeping like everything from past relationships, even the bad ones, even the ones that ended horribly. I kept them all, and it just, even going through them, it hurt my soul to look at those things. So if it's something that doesn't bring back a happy memory, don't keep it. You know, that phase of your life is over, and it doesn't do you any good to focus on that. Keeping those things around actually keeps that negative energy around and keeps that in your space and in your unconscious mind, and that's not good for you. If you're trying to minimize your stress, then you want to eliminate those things. And that was what I did, and that really worked for me. It helped clear my head, and I felt like I was actually having a fresh start and a new beginning. So I got rid of all the things that were kind of negative sentimental items. And as far as the things that really did bring me joy and that did make me really happy, I kind of downsized it a little bit. So if you do want a video of me going into more details about my sentimental items and how I kind of let go of the things that meant the most to me, I'd love to film a video on that for you guys if you're interested. So like this video or comment down below and I will definitely film it. So my last tip is to just get started. I know this can feel really daunting. I know this can feel really overwhelming, but do some research, figure out why you're doing this. Figure out where you're going to start, and then just get started. Even just getting started on the process of it will help you feel less stressed. It will help give you a calmer mind, and it really will help you find that contentment and peace that you're looking for in that space. So those are all my tips. I hope you loved this video. I hope this was helpful. If you did like it, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe while you're here. I upload videos every week about minimalism, my planner addict status, and all about my simple living lifestyle. So if you're interested in that, definitely subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you loved this video. Feel free to follow me on social media, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.
can rock